Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Monkey Patching Podcast, where we go bananas about all things AI slop, big deals, and more. My name is Murillo. I'm joined by today and always by my friend Bart. Hey, Bart.
Hey, Murillo, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good as well. Just back from a week of family vacation, the autumn break. So yeah, I'm happy.
Cool. Recharged, ready for another week of news. Actually, I did say I'm good, but I am feeling a bit sick.
Yeah, I was thinking like, does he want to go into it or not?
It was just my default. I'm like, I'm good, but no, I'm feeling a bit sick, but I'll survive.
Yeah, we
I'll
might
survive.
keep it a little bit shorter than usual, right?
Just a tad. We actually had quite a lot of articles, I feel.
Yeah, we actually had. It was a news heavy week.
Yeah.
But we're only going to cover like 6 today. But we can actually add the other ones and the summaries to the newsletter. We'll do that.
That is a good point. Yes, indeed. So maybe before we dive in, if we do have a newsletter, if you haven't subscribed already, it's how can they subscribe, Bart?
They need to go to newsletter.monkeypatching.io and just leave your email address.
That's it. As simple as that. And then you get weekly news, weekly email, basically with the content that we covered on the show, some extra links, maybe something new in the future. So if you want to stay up to date, just subscribe there. But without further ado, what do we have, Bart?
We have Google Labs and DeepMind launched Pomelli, an AI tool that builds a business DNA from a company's website to auto-generate on-brand social campaigns. It's rolling out as a public beta in the US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, promising speed but raising some questions about originality and disclosure.
Cool. So what is this?
And it's basically a tool called Pomelli, and it looks at the website of your company, and based on that, it builds this. They call it a business DNA, a bit like like a branding style guide for your company, based on the assets that you already have, and then based on that style guide, you can basically create new digital creatives, like some simple things like a flyer, stuff you would want to promote, like an image that you want to share on Instagram, like these kind of things.
So it does two thing. First, it says build, but like you need a website, and then from the website they'll create like a
Well,
how do you
what
call
I
it? Like there's a
understand, I
name for
haven't
this.
tried it. It's a website or like other type of assets that you have, right? Like you have maybe PDFs or whatever, like that are really like embody your style as a company. Like what is your branding style, right?
So it's not like you'll create something from nothing, right? You have to have something, and
Yeah,
then
exactly.
from that, I think there was a name for that, no? Like marketing portfolio or something. So basically, like what kind of fonts, what kind of colors,
Yeah,
how
but
is
like
the
a brand guide.
brand guide. That's how you mentioned to me once. So it extracts that, and then once I guess you can always verify that, right? And then once you have that, then you can generate campaign ideas or like actually generate campaign ideas. So you can. What I saw in the promo video is that you can bring your own. So it's like I want to do this campaign, so you can do that. But also, if you
Exactly.
don't have ideas, they can generate ideas for you, and then you can iterate from that. Try to say,
Yeah,
okay, change the color of this to this to that.
exactly.
So it's not available everywhere yet. So even if you wanted, you couldn't try. But yeah, this is actually, I saw this from Google Labs. So they call it an AI experiment. So actually, Notebook LM, I think, also came from Google Labs, I want to say.
Indeed, yeah.
Even though they call it experiment, I think there's a lot of, there could be a lot of business value, right?
Yeah. This is we've seen it already. There's also to me like a bit of a downside to this, like there's a bit of a question on how authentic is everything that you're gonna see when it comes to like creative output of companies, especially in this case when it comes to marketing. But we can discuss it, but I also at the same time have the feeling like the ship has sailed like 6 months ago.
Yeah, I think, again, it's about efficiency, right? Maybe you can be more efficient. You lose a bit of the authenticity. I think it's a bit, I feel like it will converge to something, right? If enough people use it, you will start to be able to see patterns, like the same thing we see with ChatGPT and all these things, right? How like the wording is very specific. Maybe there's going to be fonts or colors. There'll probably be a bias, right, in these models. Would you use this as a, if you had like if you had a small business, would you use something like this?
Hmm. If it's good, I wouldn't know why not, right? Because I think one of the challenges when you do want to do these kind of things today with Gemini or ChatGPT, what like with image generation, basically, like it's very hard to like give clear instructions on this is my style, like this is my brand guide. It's very hard. Like, and this tool like specifically does that. Like it locks down your style
Yeah,
guide and like allows you to do things within that set of parameters, which I think is valuable. I think also like long term, like sort of meant a bit like the ship has sailed. Like the reality will be that everybody that is doing something in creative marketing will to some extent use these type of tools. And I
yeah,
think the difference again is like mainly like the skills that they apply to that, like what is the creativity that comes from these people that apply these tools. Like maybe in that case, you can compare it to some extent with like going from a pen and paper to Photoshop, right? And this is
which I
like
think
a
is
next
like,
step, and the reality will be that like 90% of people will use this. Not necessarily Pomelli, but Pomelli related tools.
so it's almost like, it's like, are you going to use it as a tool, or are you going to almost replace your whole marketing team with something like this, right? And I think,
Yeah, maybe that's a good way to approach this. Yeah, and I'm in favor of using it as a tool. Like,
yeah,
still have your own idea and feeling and strategy and creativity on what the outcome is, right? Not
yeah,
just try to let it do autopilot for you.
exactly. Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I think all these things are tools, and I think good tools make you more efficient as well. So it's not so, not to undermine, right? Not to say it's just tools. It's a very powerful tool, but I still think that you need someone to really curate what are the things you want to do, you want to say, et cetera, right? So for example, I mean, LinkedIn posts, I think is very easy, right? Like you see a lot of Gen AI content, and it's easy to see like, okay, this person is using Gen AI. And I think a good,
Well, it's easy to see if
yeah,
people are not very skilled in using it.
exactly. That's the thing. So it's like if people are skilled, they curate the stuff, they use it as a tool to speed up their efficiency, then I think it goes a bit unnoticed. And I think you can be very productive and have a lot of
Mm.
very interesting stuff. But you see a lot of people with like huge posts with like a whole bunch of links and a whole bunch of like bullet points and the emojis and doing this and the
And it's
language
very
that they
like
use, right?
it's visibly clear, like this is Gen AI, right? Like
Yeah.
something like there's a part that is in bold, and there are some itemized stuff, and like
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
like
There's like some emojis here and there, and then
yeah,
there's
yeah,
always
yeah.
everything is like, yeah, it's yeah, indeed. And I think when that happens as well, I feel like maybe you lose a bit of credibility as well, right? Like,
Yeah, I fully agree. Like, I don't take it seriously anymore. Like, when you have people that like used to post once every 6 months, and now suddenly they're posting some bullshit message every day,
yeah,
trying to
exactly.
be an influencer. I mean, it's not very
Yeah.
authentic, right?
Yeah, indeed, it's not. I think I've also seen some. I've seen this more recently. Actually, it was like inspiring message that has nothing to do with tech, or like it was more about personal development. And then there's like 5 images, Gen AI images, clearly with just some subtitle, and then like a huge message on the text, right? It's just kind of saying like, small habits are the ones that make the biggest impact. Don't give up. And there's always like starts with like, I was unemployed for 5 months and then this, and this is how I turned my life around, you know? And then I actually saw like 2 or 3 posts from the same person, exactly the same. And I was like, come on, like it's a bit, yeah,
Yeah, that's the inevitable rise of AI slop.
that's true. That's true. All right. What's next? Next, we have the Wall Street Journal argues that Anthropic's enterprise first focus is paying off as corporate customers drive the bulk of its revenue and adoption. A reported multi-billion run rate and strong coding share sharpen the contrast with OpenAI's mass market push, setting up a strategic showdown over who monetizes AI best. So I came across this article. I thought it was interesting because they're basically saying they're comparing a bit the two different strategies, right? Like OpenAI, according to this article, it's more mass based, right? So it's more for the everyday person. And what they say is that Anthropic is more of a enterprise business approach, right? Even though they are less flashy in the sense that they're less on the news, they're less this, less that. They actually they show some numbers that actually, I think I saw that Anthropic, the revenue, actually they do say that the revenue per user is actually more than OpenAI's, right?
It is rumored. It's difficult to get a good view on what what the revenue of
Yes,
OpenAI is, but indeed, yeah.
indeed, it's rumored.
So maybe to give you a bit more numbers there, like Anthropic is expecting 9 billion revenue by end of 2025. OpenAI today is rumored, but Sam Altman has recently denied it, to do 13 billion in revenue this year. But let's even
So how
say
much is
that's
OpenAI again? How much is Anthropic again?
9.
9 and 13, you said.
But Sam Altman recently said in an interview that it's like way under like it's way more, but
Yeah,
it's not really clear on what it is. But even let's say it's going to be not 13, but like double 26, right?
yeah,
Like if you would say then 9 of Anthropic versus 26 of OpenAI, if you then look at the active users, so OpenAI reports around 800 million weekly active users.
yes.
Anthropic, basically with Claude, yeah, they have 19 million active users, which like is a fraction, right? Like it's
It is a fraction. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so. And
So I think,
if you look at those key metrics, like the revenue per user on for Anthropic is way better, right?
yeah, for sure, way better. But I think there's also like who's using OpenAI, right? And maybe it's more a lot of people kind of using, and that's also what they talk here, right? Like that a lot of people are using OpenAI kind of as a Google replacement.
Mm-hmm.
So they're just doing search. It's free users, right? For OpenAI to really end up ahead or to make money from this, right? Would they do ads, right? Also, then they're competing with Google as well if they're doing a Google replacement, right, for ads. So it's not an easy challenge, right? There are other things that's where I was listening about the two strategies, right, more high level, and I was a bit like, okay, how does this translate to concrete things? And then one thing they mentioned towards the end of the article, I guess, is like that OpenAI is moving more towards a hands-off approach in terms of what they censor, what kind of conversations and stuff, and not specializing models and doing things that are more quote unquote edgy or for fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like generating images and all these things. While Anthropic is really focusing on coding. It's focusing on like I think there was a study that they mentioned about legal documents as well. So something like this is very, very specific for enterprise, right? They're really specializing their models towards this, which does, I mean, also Microsoft, which was historically, I'm saying historically, but it's like a couple of years, right? They would be very tied to OpenAI, and now they are looking to use more of Anthropic models as well, I think, Copilot.
Yeah, this is just gut feeling here. Is that I think like this difference, like I don't necessarily think it means that one of them, like if I need to bet on who will win the AI race, because I think there will be one of two very big ones and like then maybe 5 small ones, and then that's gonna be it in terms of LLM providers.
Yeah.
I would still put my money on OpenAI because they have their hands in so many things, and I think what Wall Street Journal here is saying is that Anthropic is really focusing on the enterprise, which is probably true that they have a more focused aim at corporate clients. But you can't say that OpenAI does not have it. But I think the only thing that where Anthropic is basically like it rivals everybody is code generation, and it has rivaled code generation for them. I don't know, the last 2 years, 2 years and a half,
Yeah.
and that's where it is today. Very good, and like if you want to have the state of the art in code generation, you use Claude basically,
Yeah.
and I think
No,
that is where they are at.
I agree, but I was also questioning, are we in a bubble, you and I, right? Maybe if we were lawyers and we were analyzing legal documents, we would say, oh yeah, but Anthropic is much better, hands down.
But I am, and again, like that's why I was saying, gut feeling. I don't agree. Like I use it a lot to get extract numbers and stuff like this from annual accounts and stuff, and I feel that OpenAI in thinking mode is way better than Claude is today, for example.
Okay, I see. Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
But I don't think that you necessarily have one model like clearly surpassing the other. They're like,
Except for coding.
but you do have it in coding, right?
Yeah. 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 No, yeah, I haven't used as much of the other ones, but I do think, again, I also think that OpenAI has a lot of momentum, right? They are, I mean, everyone knows OpenAI, everyone uses it. Like I said, like the customer base, like the weekly users is much bigger, right? So I also feel like if they lose the AI race, it's because it's not gonna be like one mistake, right? It's something that is gonna be more like over time, like more series of consecutive mistakes for them to really fall behind. Because I agree with you that they are. I do think they are ahead, right?
Well, I think the OpenAI just serves a much broader market, and you can also like at the same time you can call that like they're not very focused. So there's pros and cons, right?
Yeah, but I think, for example, you see they're doing a lot of stuff on commerce, right? Like with deals with Stripe and stuff. They also have their own servers, right? The data servers that they're investing on as well. So I feel like they if it feels like they are investing more. And I think as a if you say you want to mitigate risk, right? If you invest in a lot of different things, it's also a healthier thing, right? Like if one of them goes wrong, it's okay, quote unquote, right? And I think the main thing, which is the mind share of people, I do think. I mean, my impression is that OpenAI is ahead, right? If I talk to my parents, which are not technical at all, they definitely know ChatGPT. I don't know if they know Anthropic. If I
Yeah,
say
I
Claude,
think
I don't know if
that's a
they
fair
do, right?
point. That's a fair point.
So
And I think that maybe that's a bit what I'm questioning here in this article is like a bit like the chicken or the egg. Like, is it that true that Claude focusing way more on enterprise clients, or is it simply true that 2 years ago they became by far the best at Gen AI coding, and thus are today more relevant for corporate clients?
that's true. Maybe AI for coding is a very clear. I mean, because also AI, the development of AI is closer to coders as well. Maybe that's also the first very clear productivity boost, right? But I do think there will be other productivity boosts,
That I
and
agree with you. Yeah,
Anthropic would not be the better one necessarily, right? So
well, I guess.
time will tell. We'll also, I think, we'll talk a bit about this, or I'm not sure if this is like the different jobs that we had over the years, but we'll see. We'll see. Time will tell. Time will tell. More on OpenAI. What do we have, Bart?
OpenAI is restructuring into a public benefit corporation with Microsoft retaining a 27% share, clearing the way for bigger capital raises and potential IPO plans. The pact resets rights and revenue sharing through 2032, signaling massive data center ambitions and tighter alignment amid escalating AI costs. Well, yeah, it is restructuring into a public benefit corporation, more or less a for profit. I
Do you
think.
know the differences? Like, what's the difference between a for-profit and a whatever they call the year?
Well, that's an interesting one as well. It comes after, I want to say, 6 months of rumors around this, right? And that they wanted to transition basically to a for profit organization because it would make their life a bit easier, I guess, like it becomes easier to raise capital. So this news broke last week. To be honest, to me, it didn't really come as a surprise. I think the only surprise is that it took that long. But it is not a for profit, it is a public benefit corporation, which is basically something like a, how should I put this? Try to find the right English words. Like a non-profit. A non-profit typically has a certain mission for the greater good. So
A
this mission for the
non-profit.
greater good needs to be there, but it is a for-profit. Something like that doesn't exist in Belgium. I'm not aware it exists in any of the European countries today, but it is
So,
basically yeah.
so basically, like a non-profit is just a mission for the greater good, but the goal is not to. I think we talked about some time about this. Basically, the company doesn't profit, right? Like everything is either reinvested or other things or paid
In an
employees or
actual
something.
non-profit.
Actual non-profit, yeah, yeah, yeah. But you also
Profits
have
are,
the
well, in
mission
a
for
non-profit, profits are reinvested. That's how you should look.
reinvested. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're not paid to, like, there are no shareholders to which profits are paid out to in a
Yeah.
non-profit,
Okay. And there's also a mission for the greater good.
typically.
And then for profit, so the other quote unquote extreme is just like, to have a quote unquote mission for the greater good. you can just kind of basically trying to put money in people's pockets, which is fine.
Let's be honest, your mission in a for-profit is to create value for shareholders.
Yeah. Okay.
However you do it.
And then this one is a bit the in between, that you're trying to create profit for your shareholders, but align with your mission, which should be something for.
That's how I
Okay.
understand it. Yeah. And I'm paraphrasing here. The mission that they're stating here is that they want to develop AGI for the greater good of the global population. That's more or less the mission.
Which is also a bit of a, I don't know, AGI for the greater good is something you don't hear often, right? Usually when people talk about AGI, it's a bit with fear, with it's going to replace jobs, going to replace people, it's dangerous, it's going to try to, I don't know.
True. Yeah, true.
Okay.
I mean, you can think about that mission, what you think, but maybe an interesting point in that is that, well, they basically become for profit, which there's also a lot of rumors about a potential IPO in the coming years.
Okay.
An IPO
And
is
maybe
basically
for
they
people,
go on the stock exchange and they become publicly traded. Most likely at some point they have to do it. It depends a bit on like what is the profitability they can reach in the coming years themselves, the revenue they can get versus like how quickly do they need to raise more money, etc. The challenge of the public benefit corporation of going to an IPO is that you need to basically keep aligning to that mission that you had when you go on the stock exchange, when you become publicly traded. And it's not always easy to match that with shareholders that have a lot of expectations.
Yeah, I see. Do you think this could be a first? Well, I guess if they were going for profit, they would have probably just gone for profit, right? They wouldn't.
No, I think it's
It
very
doesn't.
difficult. I think they couldn't. They
Ah,
couldn't.
okay.
They had. This was the only option to go sort of for profit, just because of the how it was originally structured, and they got a lot of pushback from Elon Musk in this restructuring. It was a lawsuit, and I think this was the best they could get without becoming an actual nonprofit.
Yeah. And then by doing that, also there's a bit of restructuring that I read somewhere that Microsoft, like they're still they have 24% stake, right? So they still own. Actually, it's not via directly. So there's ChatGPT, not ChatGPT, OpenAI nonprofit that org that controls or that owns the quote unquote for profit. I forgot the name.
So Microsoft had an important stake in old OpenAI. In the new structure, they will have 27%. There is still this clause that exists that from the moment that they will reach AGI up to an external board, more or less, to decide when that is reached, that the hard ties with Microsoft are cut. Then they are completely free. And those hard ties with Microsoft basically mean that today and the coming years, they have to give 20% of their yearly revenue to Microsoft.
Damn. So, okay, I'm going to repeat what you said to make sure I follow, because it seems like a biggie. They have to give 20% of their profit to Microsoft? Or have to mean?
Yearly revenue, not profit, yearly revenue, which is even more.
Until they reach their mission, which is about AGI. So and who decides if they reach their goal or not is an external board. And then when that happens, so OpenAI has 27%, but like do they take that as like the valuation at that point as an exit?
From that moment onwards, like when like Microsoft will probably still own the 27% shares, but they do not have to pay the 20% revenue to Microsoft anymore.
Damn.
Microsoft did a good deal a few years ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it sounds like someone at OpenAI really fucked up. Like,
but also in this new restructuring, like they are already less dependent on Microsoft. So they just announced a big new deal with AWS for compute, where before they had to rely or had to go first through Microsoft to see if they could contract Microsoft for extra compute, and then go to third parties. So they have a bit more wiggle room there.
And there's also something with because OpenAI, they are also investing in like data centers and all these things, right? And I think now there's no like it's OpenAI and Microsoft doesn't have any say or any stake in that, right? Like it's OpenAI owned.
To do these big investments in, for example, in data centers, they have to raise a lot of capital, and before this reorganization, Microsoft basically could more or less veto whether or not it was going to happen or not. So now they have much more autonomy and say
I see.
in their own decisions.
But they still have like board seats, I guess, for
Yeah,
the
I assume
parent
that
group
Microsoft is
and
still
all
on the
these
board.
things.
Yeah, and it's also like because the non-profit organization will keep existing, and the boards will be the same. It will have the same
Yeah.
board. What exactly the non-profit is going to do, I don't know, but it will keep existing.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I remember I saw some explainer video kind of. It's like you have the non-profit that owns the for-profit, or what today is the not for-profit, but you know what I'm saying. And how everything plays together and all the moving
Yeah,
parts.
it's complex.
It seemed very complex, yeah. And yeah, like Microsoft shares rose again, and I think it's $4 trillion. More big numbers. More big numbers. Yeah. All right. Next, we have AOL. Is that how you say it? AOL?
AOL.
AOL. Okay, AOL. Let's go with that. AOL is changing hands again, with Bending Spoons agreeing to buy it for about $1.5 billion, as the Italian firm keeps scooping up legacy internet properties. The deal comes with $2.8 billion in new debt financing and claims of 30 million monthly active users.
You've been an AOL user in the past.
I
Do you
didn't even
still
know.
remember the sound? If you don't remember the sound, then you're too
Is it
young for it.
the
But that was also part of it. But it's like, you've got mail.
Yeah, you've got. I was like, you've got mail.
Yeah, but that's the one. That's from AOL.
You had the dial-up internet, no?
Yeah, yeah.
I remember the things of like if someone is on the phone, the internet's not working, and like all these other things. I didn't know it was Italian either. So
No, it is not. Bending Spoons, which it is sold to, is Italian.
Benny Spoon's Italian.
And Bending Spoons is like basically this software conglomerate. They exist since 2013, and they basically buy like these mature consumer internet brands. And like typically they do a lot of cost cutting to really bring it down to basics and then start refactoring to make it more profitable. I think there are a lot of people that are very negative about this as well. Like you have, for examples of this are Evernote, for example, or Meetup.com that are I think both are still owned by Bending Spoons. And well, I think you can argue like Meetup is a good example. Like I think they've been neglected for a while, and there's clearly been very limited investment in them. But at the same time, you can argue like it still exists, and like they got a place to live, and it seems to be they seem to be running, and there's still big community. So I mean, pros and cons to this approach, I guess. Haters and
But I
lovers.
guess if you say that it wouldn't exist if they hadn't acquired, I think people would be like, okay, fine. I think it's a bit like what if, right? I think hindsight is a bit. If there was no acquisition, but people are still working on this and trying to make it, then maybe people wouldn't be so happy. But yeah, it's hard to know what would happen. But I looked here up quickly. Evernote, Meetup. There's also Remini and Komoot, which I don't know. But StreamYard and WeTransfer actually is also from them.
Yeah, and it's a very typical like the Komoot. Komoot is in the outdoor community, like routing, like you can find navigation instructions, stuff like this. They were, I think, I want to say acquired 2 years ago. WeTransfer was acquired, and like their typical play is that like for WeTransfer, for example, like they've signaled that they're gonna cut like 75% of the staff, really make it like super lean, and like that basically means like we're not gonna invest super heavily anymore in new features. Like this is what it is today, and we're gonna really try to market the current set, and then like only grow like with what we really need to invest in, what are really critical things.
Yeah. So basically, it's like Bending Spoons owning it is really just kind of saying we're just going to stabilize just to the bare minimum to keep things afloat. We're not planning.
Well,
We're not
I
in
would say
growing
that
phase.
that is the pessimistic view on it. I would say
Okay.
that.
What's the optimistic view?
I think the optimistic view that they probably themselves would say is that they are an evergreen holding, where something like Evernote can live for a very long time, and they will invest when it is needed, but they will cut all the things that are inefficient in the original organization.
Okay.
That is
And
maybe the more
Evergreen
optimistic
Holding.
view.
Yeah. Evergreen Holding is like when a group basically acquires these companies without the intent to sell and without intent to necessarily change how the company is working. Is that a good description of it?
Without, I think that is more or less correct. Yeah, yeah. I think not necessarily that they don't want to change anything to the company, because they clearly do. Like they want to make the company super
Yeah.
efficient, super lean, right?
Okay.
But they don't want to. They what they value is the brand and the community around that
Yeah.
brand.
I think that's what I was thinking. Like they don't want to change the brand or change the stuff that works. They don't want to change, right? Like the
Exactly.
maybe
Yeah.
the I don't know how it is for working for people, but maybe the culture, the brand, the atmosphere, the public image. They don't want to change that.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Do you know about this?
So yeah, they bought AOL, and I looked into a bit like what because I didn't know AOL was still around, and I looked a bit what it is, and so you have the AOL portal, which is a bit like you have some news, you have some finance information, you have weather information, you have entertainment, so basically like more or less a news site. You have some desktop applications. There are some security stuff like ID protection, data security, but I think all of that is like peanuts. What it comes down to, what they have is that they have 30 million active email users still. So you have basically still a lot
What?
of people with an AOL email address.
A lot of people with you've got mail.
Yeah, and probably, and I think reading that, I also understand like this is actually interesting, because probably a lot of people that still today have an email address, they're like, yeah, it's very hard to switch, but I probably should switch, because like how long will AOL still live? Right?
Maybe a
You
question as
probably,
well. Maybe this is a bit of a dark, but like how many of these people are alive?
well, there are 30 million active users.
Active users. So for
Active
sure
users.
this is okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Are you
Okay. Okay.
calling
Okay.
people that
Okay.
used AOL old now?
No, 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 not at all. Not at all. It was just I don't know what I was thinking actually. Okay.
But that basically means that like AOL is still a very big email provider,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think
For sure.
it would be interesting to have a big modern revamped email provider, because today, like you use something for free and then you're the product, right? Like you use Gmail, or you use Live or something like that, or Outlook, or you go for something like Proton, or but there are not a lot of them. Like it's hard to run an email service, right?
I think it
But
could be
actually,
cool.
AOL is still a very big one, but they're not. I don't think they're really, like, people don't think of them like, I need an email service, like, let's check out AOL. Like, I think there's still a lot of value there. Like, if you like freshen this up a bit, bring it up to
Yeah.
2025 standards, and really
Yeah.
reposition this in the market.
Yeah. I think it's a interesting brand, let's say, in the sense that people don't think of it now, but if you mention it, everyone knows what it is.
Exactly. That's a
It's
fair
like
point.
so it's like if you say AOL, you don't have to explain what it is and what it does. And I think there's a lot of people that probably have like fond memories or something like this. Like it became a bit of an
Yeah.
icon. So it's 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 new in the sense that you can reinvent, but it's not new in the sense that you're already a bit ahead on the acknowledgement from people, the brand, and all these things, right? So it could be, yeah, it's true. I think there's an
Yeah.
opportunity there.
Of course, it goes a bit like it's a bit, it doesn't really match with the typical playbook of bending spoons, right? Like where they cut a lot of stuff and say, this is just what we have. Like to really reposition it, like it really has to be like revamped and built up to speed. And like,
Yeah.
I mean, let's see a year from now, if
Let's
more
see a
people
year
around us
from now.
know of AOL.
Yeah, they also mentioned they have a very loyal customer or user base, right?
But is it? I wonder, like to me, like AOL was huge, right? Like
Yeah.
AOL was huge in the US. I mean, I lived in the Netherlands. Even we had the AOL there. Like everybody in the world had AOL at some point. And I think a lot of people, I mean, the only reason I still have a Gmail address today is because it's fucking hard to say to everybody, I've got a new email address. Please contact
Yeah.
me on that new email. Like it's super hard. Like
Yeah.
it has nothing to do with my loyalty. It has to do with my laziness.
Yeah, it's true. It's very sticky, right? Like
It's super sticky.
everything's
Yeah.
set up there. Like, what about all the accounts that you created using that email? And what about this? What about that? Yeah. When I was a kid, this is a bit of a side story. I had some emails that had they were I was trying to be edgy, but I was a bit rebellious, right? So I had some emails that they weren't there was no profanity, right? But it was a professional. And I remember at one point some people were like, you should create a new email because like if you start going to university, start doing these things that you need to actually use serious email addresses, you cannot use this, obviously, right? So I created a new email and actually I'm super happy that I did because imagine you if I was more stubborn, I had just stuck with it. And now I have like all these things, all these accounts in all these places that like can't go back. I think I was like young, right? So it's like I didn't have a lot of stuff there.
Yeah, I had the same thing when I was young. Yeah, I also had like my gamer name I had in my
Your
email
gamer
address.
name, trying to be edgy, like like finding your
I still have it
identity.
today, actually. Like in my Gmail address, I have my. I didn't think about it at that point. Like my name is a very common name in the
Yeah.
Netherlands, so it was already taken. So I just put like the last two numbers of my birth year behind it,
Okay.
and now I
And
feel a
that
bit
worked.
weird about it. Right?
I feel like that's okay. I feel like that's still okay, right?
That's about like that you can still pull off. You shouldn't go
Yeah,
further
but
than
like
that.
imagine if you put the year of like your girlfriend back then, like
Well, yeah,
I
that
don't know.
would be awkward. Yeah, yeah.
That could be worse. That's what I'm saying, right? Like
It could be
I feel like
worse.
the
Yeah.
birth year is okay, but there's some things that yeah. But actually Bart and then the two digits, that was enough for you.
No, it's Bart and my last name, Smits. Two
Okay,
digits.
okay, okay, okay. I have a very common name in Brazil. First name, I mean, they're not that common, but it's common enough that creating a new email address, especially these days, is not. I need to be creative about it. So
Well, I knew that there were other Bart's Smits alive. Only a few weeks ago, I checked it on LinkedIn. Just you can type in like the exact name. It's like pages of people with my exact first name and last name. Pages and pages and pages. It's crazy.
yeah, it's crazy.
Like any
Yeah,
feeling of any uniqueness just went out the window.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, nowadays to be creative, I think yeah, finding a good email address is not easy these days.
No,
Finding
it's
a
not
nice.
easy.
So, so yeah. What else do we have? Your turn, no?
I can take it. Wharton's latest adoption study says generative AI has moved from pilots to measured ROI, with usage now weekly for most leaders and daily for many. Standout stats like 72% tracking ROI and 3/4 seeing positive returns. They set the stage for 2026's push from experimentation to performance at scale. A 2025 report by Wharton that goes a bit in depth on the use of GenAI in enterprises with much more positive results. And then the study we saw a few months ago by
MIT.
MIT, thank you. So I checked a bit in like what is the audience, what is about where they who did they survey, right? They interviewed 800 US enterprise decision makers between June 26th and July 11th in this year. The previous year, so there are also some trends there. So in the report, previous year it was also 800, so that's 2024. In 2023, they interviewed 670. So quite significant numbers, right?
Yeah.
They're all decision makers from US commercial organizations with more than 1,000 employees and at the very least more than 50 million in revenue. So relatively big. Very varied, like HR, IT, legal, marketing, sales, operations, engineering, procurement, blah, blah, blah. A lot of different domains. What is also interesting that they looked at different tiers for the results. So you have tier 1 is companies that are at size 2 billion revenue and more. Tier 2 is 250 million to 2 billion. Tier 3 is 250 million and lower. So you also have some interesting like differences between like the size of the companies. And what like the main finding, which is already the important one, is that tracking of ROI on these projects, on these GenAI projects, is more or less standard. Like
Which is maturity.
72%
Shows
of these
maturity.
enterprises say that they formally measure the ROI on their GenAI projects, which is a
Which I
lot.
guess, yeah, yeah. And it shows that AI is really becoming more mature, right?
Well, I would say I would argue that that's like the next thing, the next result that is because 74% already see positive ROI overall.
70%.
74% of
Okay.
these companies. That's a lot, right? That is like to be the complete opposite than the study from MIT,
Yeah.
where it was like
Maybe a
5%.
question also on the study from MIT. Did they also have a multi-year analysis of this, or was it just
I don't know, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't remember either, but yeah. But yeah, indeed.
They also make some so 74% see positive ROI overall. They make some comparisons between sectors. So you see digital heavy sectors, they show higher positives. So for example, tech and telecom, 88% positive ROI, banking, finance, and professional services, 83%. But like manufacturing and retail, they are respectively 75% and 54%, meaning that there's definitely an ROI in manufacturing, but retail with 54%, like it's still a bit like we still need to prove this stage. Also interesting, tier 2 and tier 3. So that is the small to mid-sized companies. They skew to be more positive in ROI results. Tier 1, those are the very big companies. They're more stating like, it's still early to tell whether or not we're going to get a positive ROI from this.
So the smaller companies are benefiting more, like at least concretely. That's what I understand.
That's also how I understand it. Feels intuitive to me just from my experience that in like the still very young technology and very, very big companies, like the tier that they're defining here is 2 billion revenue or more, that's very big. Like they typically also move very slow. So I don't think it feels intuitive that these companies like will lag behind in reporting a positive ROI.
But because they said also they're not sure, but I guess it's more, I know they just say it's too early, right? But okay. But then the expectation would be that the ROI would come, but it's just that these enterprises are bigger, so it takes time for the ROI to catch up.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah.
the intuition behind it. Yeah.
The intuition. If that's correct, then we should see the ROI for the tier 1 enterprises coming up in the next years.
Exactly.
Yeah. Indeed. It's just really, well, way more positive than the MIT report. I think
Definitely.
also they measure about how much the leaders, right, they believe in Gen AI as well. So it's not just the actual ROI, but also how much they want to, how much trust there is, quote unquote, which is also high, right?
Yeah. And you could be skeptical on these results as well, because you're interviewing leaders in these respective fields and they're in their respective companies. They are probably leading a lot of these projects. Like it's also their head on the line, right? Like they also have a lot of incentives to say like it's going very well, it's
True,
creating a lot of ROI.
true, true.
So you can be skeptical, but at the same time, like these are overwhelmingly positive results, right?
Yeah, which is it's very contrasting with what we saw from the MIT report, right?
Exactly.
Which again,
Yeah.
to be fair, like I have heard some criticism over the takeaways that a lot of people have drawn that the MIT report, like basically the MIT report, the headlines was 95% of projects fail. And some people are coming back to say, actually, the report doesn't say that. It says that 95% doesn't show clear ROI, but there's a big chunk of those that is just inconclusive. So that doesn't mean the
Mm-hmm.
project fails. So like there was some criticism on that, right?
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
also
definitely.
criticism on how the report was made. There was some controversy there, and now we have this one that kind of says 80%, 74% with clear ROI and all these other things, right? So yeah, this is also from my knowledge at Wharton. I didn't know Wharton, but I know University of Pennsylvania, right? So this is a business journal from the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania. So it's another big university in the US, reputable
Yeah,
as well,
indeed.
and also a GBK collective. But I don't know about this collective here. So I think on the first page they also talk a bit about it. Do you know them or not?
But again, like it's a report. It's based on their survey. It's not a peer-reviewed article, right? So that's again, like you
True.
can, but it is a positive sign. Let's look at it like that.
After having seen these two things, before we move on, do you lean more towards one or the other?
You mean whether or not AI will have a positive ROI on companies?
Yes. Is how much
I
hype?
think I personally think that especially in digital heavy sectors, AI will have a overwhelmingly positive effect on our. I think we're already seeing it today. I think we will even see it more in the future, but I think it will come at the detriment of jobs.
Yeah. There's actually one article that we're not gonna have time to cover today that talked a bit about this, right?
We have an alternative one. The next one.
Yeah, and that's true. So what is this next one? And I think it's my turn to take a look. A massive scrape of job posting finds steep drops in creative execution roles like computer graphic artists and writers, while machine learning engineers surge 40% year over year. Watch list: medical scribes fall 20%, hinting at AI note-taking tools biting into entry-level healthcare admin work. So again, I think nice segue. Like we have the gloomy reports, we have the very positive report, and then we have something that is really data driven, right? Like it's very just looking at job postings, right? Which is from many different places. This is in the US though, I want to say, or at least focus in the US. But still, I think it feels more tangible, right? It feels more concrete and data driven than what we've seen so far.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I would suggest people to have a look at the article. It's interesting how they did it. They work with a data provider. They also worked with Amazon Mechanical Turk to label jobs into certain categories. And it's a very rich data set, right?
Actually, this is the chief. I think I saw he's the chief of research actually at this place. So they didn't necessarily,
Okay, I see. He is the
uh,
chief research at the data
yeah,
provider. Okay,
head of
interesting. Yeah.
research at the place. So I think it's part of his. But I thought
Okay,
it was
interesting.
interesting in any case. So he also shares again all the methodology, the data. He also used Mechanical Turk, so he didn't just use the AI to
Mm,
add taxonomies, right, for the AI. I
that's
like
very
the
interesting.
transparency, and it's very understandable, right, how he got to these things. So walk me through this.
Well, overall, global postings, indeed, like you already mentioned, like we're talking US. But I think we can more or less, it's a dangerous statement, we can more or less guesstimate that we see similar trends in the EU. Maybe not the same, maybe there's some lag, but there's similar trends. Global postings, they fell 8% in 2025 versus 2024.
Yeah. And I think he also mentions that it's important because he uses it as a benchmark. So I like if overall job postings fell 8%, and you see that, for example, creative writing dropped 8%, that just means zero delta, right? It just followed the trend, the overall trend. That's how he approached his,
Yeah.
right?
There's some big numbers. So, for example, computer graphic artist minus 33% 2025, photographers minus 28%, writers minus 28%, journalists and reporters minus 22%. That's big, eh?
Yeah. Big numbers.
Big changes. Not all creatives are down. So you have, for
Yeah.
example, more the strategic and lead roles, like creative directors and producers. They more or less like they hold up versus the last year.
Which does make sense when you look at AI, right? Like
Hmm.
if AI can generate content faster, the amount of people you need to do quote unquote the grunt work,
Yeah.
right, of actually creating the things, it is smaller. So there is something that you could explain with AI. But the people making the decisions of the campaigns and what's good and what's not good and signing off, that's still very relevant.
I think the difficult thing when looking at these job evolutions, you have a lot of things going on at the same time. You have this upcoming capability on AI, Gen AI LLMs. You also have like this economic instability, economic parameters that are less good, inflation, etc. There's geopolitical imbalances at the moment. But I think all of the things that we're looking at here, like journalists, reporters, photographers, etc., like intuitively you link these to AI becoming better, right?
Yeah, indeed. So
And
again,
AI
we could,
becoming better means a decrease in these jobs. And
yeah,
if we like take this further, like there's another one on more regulatory work, like this is typically very paperwork heavy work, like compliance specialists minus 29%, sustainability specialists minus 28%, environmental technicians minus 26%, chief compliance officers minus 37%, sustainability managers minus 35%. Again, because it's very paperwork heavy, like intuitively you can link this to AI becoming better at these things, right?
yes, I would also add, and there's also something he mentioned as well. This is US based. And I think if you look at the geopolitical movements as well in regards to sustainability, it feels
Agreed.
like the sustainability agenda also dropped a bit. So having people using these things is not as top of mind, right?
Yeah, I
But
agreed.
they did
Agreed.
mention there was, I think, yeah, trade compliance specialists grew, right?
Yeah.
So again,
And there
geopolitical
you
things.
see, like that's probably because of the tariffs. And there you see, like, even if AI is better at these things, like when you need real expertise, you're gonna hire an expert for this.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Which is a bit, I mean, maybe we're skipping a bit, but there's also the mid-level managers and the top-level managers, which is a bit, yeah, demand for senior leadership is much stronger than middle managers plus individual contributors, which it feels a bit like similar trend, right? Like the more quote unquote grunt work, the more, which is a bit of a pity because a lot of times that's where people learn a lot, right?
Mm.
When they're executing the job that someone else thought about, right? And
Agreed. Agreed.
they learn some things. So it's also something that you see as a trend, right? So maybe just to add some numbers to this, individual contributors -9%, middle manager -5.7%, which actually is technically above the baseline, but senior leadership it's 1.7% less, -1.7. So you see a bit the thing there.
And maybe on the other side of the coin, like if we do think all of this is linked to AI becoming better as a skill, if you look at the jobs that are needed there, we basically see a positive sign. So
Yeah,
you have, for example, machine learning engineers plus 40%, even after doing already 78% in 2024. Robotics engineer up 11%, research and applied scientists up 11%, data center engineers up almost 10%. So the opposite side of this, right?
yeah. And we say 10% is 10% on increase, right? So it's even more than the benchmark. So it's true. It's true. I was also wondering, like data engineering, I mean, data engineer I can get, but like machine learning engineer, which is the top one, there are some people that argue that to build Gen AI systems, you don't need a machine learning engineering background. I think the data here, well, maybe for people listening, right? The argument is that machine learning engineers, they train the models. They have the data, they need to experiment, they have different models to try, different parameters, and they need to basically see if this model is good or not. But basically create something from scratch. Whereas with Gen AI or agentic AI, you take these off-the-shelf models from Anthropic or OpenAI. So there's no training. So you can just use it. And this also means that usually the infrastructure, so where the model runs is not on your local machine, is on a very specialized hardware, which is also very expensive. And with that change, there's a lot of people that argue that for doing AI, so Gen AI work, you don't actually need to have a machine learning background or a data science to understand all these things because the skills are different. But if you look at this number here, just purely looking at the job positions, that's not true, right? You still need people with the background to be able to build the systems, unless you say that AI and Gen AI just increase the popularity of machine learning, and that's why people are being hired, right? But yeah,
What I think is happening here, like I think the companies that are building foundational models, like Anthropic, like OpenAI, I mean, they're still hiring more people. I don't think that is the growth that you see here. I think the growth that you see here is indeed people that are using these models, are building a wrapper around OpenAI and the logic around that. They used to be called software engineers, and simply because they touch LLMs now in some way or fashion, or their job name switched to machine learning engineers. I think
I see
that's
what you're saying.
a big part of the shift here.
So you think that a chunk, again, you're speculating here, but you think that a chunk of these jobs are just like what I'm thinking when I heard machine learning engineer 5 years ago is not the same thing that these people are talking about. This is
No,
more
I don't think so.
LLM, API calling, all these things. I think that's a more plausible explanation, actually. So yeah. Um, the thing that is a bit to me, so again, maybe the taxonomy and the methodology, right? Today, if you ask me, an AI engineer is something one that really works with LLMs, is very specialized in that, and I think there is an specialization as well in that. A machine learning engineer is someone that builds models. Um, but also the fact that there's no AI engineer here, and you see
Mm,
data engineer, you see all these things. I think also, I think it speaks to your point as well, right? I think maybe
a
in the
bit of a bucket
taxonomy and the
definition.
methodology. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I guess this is the only The only reason for which, the only people for which this is positive is people that are today in the tech sector and doing something with AI.
Maybe one thing that
For us,
also
is
stood out to me
yeah,
was the influencer marketer um, that also grew. And I think there is a bit of a, well, again, you could say that is this AI? Is it because of using AI tools for marketing, like we mentioned? One of the arguments that the author puts, which I thought it was interesting, is that there is a trend with Gen AI in the sense that there's so much AI slop created these days that ads and marketing campaigns and all these things, they don't feel really genuine. But having influencers that are very relatable to you to showcase products, to try out things, to see a video of someone that like kind of the same demographic as you, it's very genuine. And I think and what he argues is that maybe the explosion of AI slop makes people crave more for the genuine thing, like this is really someone that is trying these things. And that's why he was hypothesizing that there's a growth there. What do you think of that argument?
let me paraphrase. So what you're saying here, like this very positive trend on like that there are more like influencer marketing specialists hired, is because people value authentic stuff more. That's what you're saying, right?
I think authentic more in the sense that it's not AI generated. It's an actual person behind.
Yeah, I don't believe
You
it.
don't think that? Okay.
So I do believe that we will see actual human created creativity and content will get a higher value in the future. I think it's already
Like,
happening.
yeah, it's true.
I think it's already happening. Like if you can stand out by who you are, by the things that you like, the things you can think of, you can create, etc. Like it helps you to stand out from all of the generic stuff that is out there, and which is becoming more generic because everybody uses the same tools. I think the trend that you see here in influencer marketing is simply that from the moment you start marketing as an online brand or as an online or an e-commerce or clothing or whatever, like where the channels today are Instagram, TikTok. If you focus on the 50 to 70, you do a bit of Facebook, you do a lot on a podcast, like, and all those you can capture on if you want to go viral there, you need to be an influencer. To me, it's just like, it's a bit of a shift of the older marketing channels to what today the biggest ones are, and like the new name that comes with that. That's
Yeah.
what it looks
So
like to me, to be honest.
not necessarily AI. It's just that people are not watching TV much. They're watching their new shorts, right? Like TikTok or something. That's just like a natural evolution that
Yeah,
doesn't
and
have
TikTok is a very good
correlation with
example. Like
AI.
TikTok needs to, like, you don't put your company video there, right? Like you need to have an influencer, someone that talks about you, like someone that builds something around your brand, like some identity, and like you need an influencer, right?
I see. True. One thing that I heard, I don't know if you've seen this with your kids or friends of your kids or parents that whatever. I heard that kids today, like when I was a kid, actually, when asked like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I grew up in Brazil, so take that in mind. It was always like football player. All the boys wanted to be football players. I think on my dad's time, or maybe I don't know, or maybe other places, they wanted to be astronauts. Right nowadays, what I heard on a podcast is that the podcaster kids, they wanted to be influencers. They wanted to be YouTube creators. Yeah, I know, and that was a bit the
That's
whole.
depressing.
Yeah, exactly. That was a bit the whole discussion, right? Like, why should we? Because like, so he breaks it down a bit. Like, why should we try to inspire people to do hard things, right? You know, and maybe actually the motivation is more about the fame. So it wasn't just like people wanted to be
Mm.
astronauts, not because it's so challenging. Maybe it's because they're famous,
Yeah,
and now the
it's
influencers are
probably true, right?
famous, right? Like, but yeah, but like, I don't know if you felt any of this with I don't know
With my kids,
personal
no, I
experience.
think
Yeah,
they're still a
no,
bit too young for this.
okay. But it would be interesting to see. And yeah, like the influencer, I think it's I do think that quite a lot of kids
But
they would like
it's
to be.
maybe a good insight that you have. Though. Like it sounds like going from astronaut to football player is already a step down, and then to influencers, and even a tumble down the stairs. But maybe
Yeah,
it's just like which people are at one point in the global society, like elevator, like these are our heroes. Like probably
exactly.
like
These are the people we
in the
venerate,
60s, in the
right?
70s, these were astronauts, and
Yeah.
football, of course, a very big thing, and now it's influencers.
Indeed. So again, speaks a lot to
Interesting.
where we are.
The pessimistic thing on about this report is, of course, like there's a big decrease in a lot of different categories. That means that there's a lot of hiring stops. It's also like we got this confirmation also from Jerome Powell, the chair of the Federal Reserve, a few days ago,
Yes.
that job creation is very low. And job finding rate for people who are unemployed is also very low. And all these hiring freezes basically also means that it will take longer for these people to gain experience. It's a bit of feels a bit like a downward spiral, right? So
Yeah,
I'm
which is an article we won't cover today, but we will send on the newsletter.
yeah,
So that article and the other article, so that one is from someone from in the US government, right? So someone that has looked at the numbers, and he has said that like when you analyze the numbers and you dive a bit deeper, we should be concerned, right? And the other article that we're not going to be able to cover today, do you remember what it is?
it's the one about the bot farm that Andreessen Horowitz
Yes. Yes,
invested in.
yes. So basically, it's like a company that they got a lot of money from A16Z, so big venture capital, and it's basically, well, the clickbaity title is like AI Slop creator, right? So
They're
we
basically
let
investing
people
in a huge bot farm that will create even more AI slop.
and also interact with users, right? So if someone says a question, there's some AI bots to reply, which is also illegal for most social platforms, Reddit, Meta, Instagram. They don't allow for AI spam, let's say, and also for to make money off of this, but that's their whole business model. So yeah, if people are interested to having a look, subscribe to our newsletter dot monkeypatching.io. That right part?
Yeah, that's right.
And I think that's it we have for today, unless there's anything you want to leave everyone with, Bart.
Thank you for listening, and we'll check in again next week.
Thanks, everyone. See y'all next week.
Ciao.